So, Maria, welcome to Rock's blog.
Hello, Sarah. Thanks
Hi
for having me.
there. So, we're here today to talk about the complaint.
Indeed.
So, I was reading through, you've got an incredible background, lots of different things, lots of different sort of mediums and creative expressions. What brought you to filmmaking?
I suppose I've always had a passion for it. Way back when I was a teenager, I was involved with the children's film unit up in Putney, and I used to go and do filmmaking practice on the weekends there. And we made a film for Channel 4 back in the day. Um, and I did do media as part of my original bachelor's degree when I was a teenager. But I found it quite a challenge to kind of make the work after I left uni sustainable in that field. I think a lot of people still do. Yeah, it just sort of my life just went in a different direction. I had to make a decision about being able to pay my rent and kind of keep going in life, or just struggle on at the time. And I think, like students now, we had you kind of if you've got student debts and things to pay off, and you're trying to kind of make ends meet, you just have to make some decisions at that point. But I feel quite lucky that I've had the opportunity to be able to come back to it. It's kind of since lockdown, it kind of reignited my fire for interest in it. And I took myself to film school, and which I couldn't do back then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, life's all about lifelong learning, isn't it? So it's nice to be able to
absolutely.
continue that even now.
Yeah. So, I saw you studied at NFTS.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, incredible school. What a reputation.
yeah, it's great.
How did that sort of form that initial passion and love you had for filmmaking into
I mean, I started off. I did my postgrad at Raindance, and then I discovered the course at NFTS. And what was lovely about the NFTS course is it was a larger cohort, and I met a real range of people from different backgrounds. And not everyone was necessarily wanting to be a director or a producer. Everyone had different interests, and I guess I just got to the point where I just thought, now is the time, and now's the time to make stuff. And so yeah, so I've made this short film, and now it's doing the festival circuit. I've already had a couple of sort of awards for it, which is great. Best first time filmmaker, yay!
nice?
A short film.
Congratulations.
It's going to be at a Nevada Film Festival over in the States soon. But yeah, I wanted to make something. I think it's important when you're a filmmaker to make something that's sort of like your voice. People can make a film, but if it doesn't really reflect anything that you feel passionate about, then it's hard, especially the period of time that it takes to make a film. You need to sustain your interest in it, and I think that's why something like the subject of gaslighting is something that a lot of people I know have experienced. And I just felt it was something that I really wanted to share and tell the story of. Yeah, it's sustained me through. I suppose it's nearly been 2 years, maybe 2 years, three. I wrote the story in 22, and collaborated with a screenwriter through that period, and then in 2023 is when I made it, and then it was finished in early 24. So yeah, it's kind of almost 2 years of my life. So it
Yeah.
has to be interesting.
Oh, 100%. And I think for audiences and in terms of festivals for programming, you can always tell when there's a film or when there's a script or something that's got that love, that passion, that heart in it.
Mm,
I think that shines through. And I speak to so many different filmmakers, and then you find your particular, often your niche and your style, and there might be something in there which you can then, thread through to all your body of work.
yeah, yeah. And
So
I
you
think
mentioned, yeah, no, go on ahead.
Right. I was going to say, and I think also as a female, as a mother, I feel that certain subjects, I feel it's really important to talk about, and not just sort of keep it under the rug and just suck it up. I think these things do need to be expressed and do need to be told, because also when you say gaslighting, not everyone really knows what that's about. So actually, it was quite nice to have the opportunity to make something that I felt very passionate about, and that was of that I could play with in a creative medium.
Yeah. And I think gaslighting as well. I mean, I've got a bit. not angry recently, but I think a lot of people throw around the term unnecessarily.
Mm.
Whereas actually it's a very serious form of abuse, and as you said, it's domestic abuse, and it's something that, you've clearly suffered in the workplace. I've suffered in the workplace. And I think most women will have, but so I think as well, as you said, this is an important story to tell, but it's being told from a female, and it's being
Mm.
told from someone who has experienced it directly. And
Mm.
that is so important.
Yeah, and I do know men who've experienced it, but I think it is a thing about power. It's a power game. So I do, in the society we live in,
Mhm.
the people I know, obviously I know a lot of women, and we all speak together and share our stories of that. So obviously that, and being a woman myself, I thought it was, my story to tell.
Yeah,
It's kind of a accumulation of lots of different things that have come about. So.
yeah. And how did you connect with Emily?
Oh, Emily. She is a very talented theatre writer in Reading, who I've known for a while through Progress Theatre, and she's really talented at doing kind of Kafkaesque style language.
Yeah,
And I wanted it to be a story that wasn't just, oh, this is a straight drama. I wanted it to feel. I think Kafka is very good at making things feel. Yes, it sort of messes with the mind, and it sort of makes you question. And I thought that was a really great way to kind of express the story. So I shared my story with her, and she created this wonderful script, which I think is amazing to play with in a film for a film.
yeah. I think it makes it more tangible. What
Mm.
we're talking about, the gaslighting, those feelings of really like, am I crazy? Am I?
Is it me?
Is it
Did I dream
me?
this?
Yeah. So putting that absurd twist on it, I
Mm.
think just makes it, yeah, more tangible. And I certainly was able to connect with it a lot more because you're just like, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And also I think it explains it quite well. I mean, it's like any Kafka play or a Pinter. These things are they're written like that for a reason, because
Yeah,
they make people stop and think more. And I think it's more powerful that way, really.
yeah. Because you've got this great sort of molding of genres as well. You've got those really brilliant little funny moments, which sort of invites the audience in. It's playful, and then you've got some great horror vibes.
Mm,
And I mean, I love horror to
me
discuss
too.
anything. I think it's a great genre. And
Yeah.
then obviously we've got this absurd, like sort of little cabaret. So I've watched it a few times. I was watching it again this morning. I was like, there's so much in here.
Yeah. I also was a bit inspired by David Lynch as well. Some of his techniques. I was a big fan of Twin Peaks back in the day,
Ah,
and
yeah, classic.
yeah, yeah, I was inspired by some of the techniques that he used, and obviously because I was making it on quite a tight budget, it was important for me to try and have as much of the effects in camera as possible. I didn't really have a budget for for lots of special effects, so actually camera technique was really important. And I had two lovely actors to work with, Peter Prentice and Charlene Francis, who are both really lovely people,
Yeah.
and I also had the great privilege to be able to rehearse before we got onto the shoot, which was great, which really helped make the dialogue really strong, and
Yeah.
made the flow of the shoot really really smooth.
Yeah. Your actors are great. But I mean, Charlene, she is sort of everything you want for that role. There's-
Mm.
She's a bit timid, obviously.
Yeah,
She's a woman of color, and she's going into this situation with this man who just doesn't really care. He's just going to ignore her.
yeah.
But at the end, you can see her rage and everything. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
What were
she
you
was the
looking
best
for?
actress for the job. And I think she had some really nice, subtle, she was great at playing all sorts of different feelings and emotion to camera. And she plays really nicely against Peter's character, Mr. Postle, as well. And I didn't what I wanted to make sure as well, that initially that the man isn't like a stereotype or some sort of what do you call it, a sort of well, basically, where it's an archetype, and I wanted him to have some dimension to him too. I think that's really important. Everyone wants a three-dimensional, female character. It's got to make sure if you're doing that, that you do that for the man as well.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Um,
that's a really good
so
point.
yeah, he's there's reasons why people behave like that themselves as well, and I hope that comes across in the film. You get a sense that maybe he's gone through some stuff as well in his career.
Oh
Might be
yeah, he's
self,
been relegated to the
but
lower floor.
yeah, been positioned down there, and there's a reason why he's been doing that for years rather than other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, neither of them want to be there. Neither of them want
No,
to be in that situation.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to ask you about this, and I did have a question about the post-production, all those effects, but you mentioned you did a lot of them in camera.
Mm, mm.
So talk us through sort of how you created those, like the flashing and when you got the clock that goes a bit mad.
Yeah, so I mean it's more around I mean handheld stuff. We did a few cutaways of items in the room. I had a great production designer who's up and coming, Phoebe Gibson. She sourced some items. I also sourced some stuff from local theatre, and we basically used those as things in the room that we could do inserts of, and then we intercut them with stuff. And that's quite. If you watch some of David Lynch's techniques on his older films, I mean, even back then, they didn't really have the same level of visual effects stuff. So you did have
Yeah,
to do stuff in camera.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I drew inspiration from that. You can do a lot in editing that makes it look like a visual effect when actually it's just editing or overlaying images, which has been done since old Rosebud. What was that film? Citizen Kane. Citizen
Okay,
Kane was
yeah.
one of the first movies where they overlaid different images as a visual effect, and so yeah, it's been done for many decades.
No, absolutely. And it's nice to see and to hear about filmmakers who, are using that because obviously
Mm,
short films, there's never really a huge budget.
no.
Unless you're, Almodovar making a short film, then you're fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, and that's why, as you've learned and as we all know, film is to draw you into the world, and there's so many ways to do that. Um,
Definitely.
yeah. So, I mean, I know you've written and we spoke about it, and you wanted this film to provoke.
Yes. Yeah.
So I said to you earlier, I was like, I'm rewatching it again. I was angry.
Mm, mm.
But so you've been around festivals. How have you found audience and reactions from people who've seen the film?
I've had some really good feedback. I haven't been to many yet. A lot of them are later in the year, but I actually had some video feedback from a festival, which was great. A real mix of things. Some people really loved the writing, the acting. People saying the acting's phenomenal. So I've had some really lovely sound bites from festivals. And I think it's every film is individual. It's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but it can really appeal to other people. So it's just like any movie, right? I mean,
Hmm.
not everyone likes Star Wars, not
No.
everyone likes a horror. So, but I think that thing about provoking emotion, I think that's what drew me to cabaret work as well, because you can very much get with the audience. You can provoke. You're breaking the fourth wall. You're making them feel things. You're putting things on display, and showing things for what they are. And I think and I don't know, creating a bit of circus around it. I just love yeah, I just love that feeling of it's quite empowering to be able to make people feel stuff like that.
Yeah.
um I mean, I suppose people have done that for many years in theatre as well. I mean, if you think about Bertolt Brecht and people like that with his sort of alienation technique and things like that. But people do that in cinema too. But it's that I want to entertain as well as make people feel something,
Yeah.
which is why I think I mean I've got a good sense. Well, I like to think I've got a good sense of humor. So yeah, so having humor in it is really important. I mean, it's like the two masks, isn't it? It's comedy and tragedy together. So yeah, really, it's empowering to be able to put that into cinema.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the humor does come through. I mean, obviously the mousetrap bit is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
But I mean, my favorite part when he was like pointing to the complaints and he's like, you can go on that board. And it's
yeah,
like this scrappy thing. And obviously when he pulls out the complaint, he's like, is this mouse wee?
yeah,
Why? And it is great because what you're talking about is really serious and
yeah.
really impactful. And it's sort of like I mentioned earlier, but those bits of comedy and that is just, it's then people watching it and maybe people who haven't realized that they've gone through those situations. And then they can sort of
It
look
makes
at
it
it and go,
accessible.
oh, that happened to me.
Yeah, it's accessible, and I think the feelings that you feel if you are going through a situation like that is it is absurd. There is an
Yeah,
absurdist element, and on the one side you're like crying inside, and on the other hand you're like, but this is ridiculous.
yeah.
And that questioning and that really what how are you and this confusion. So I think Emily's done an amazing job on the script. She's brilliant at Kafka style absurdist things. So yeah, I'm really happy with the result of the script, because we didn't really do much adjustment to the script. What once we'd firmed it up, the we didn't really do much to change it. When I through the edit, I was able to sort of just sharpen it up a little bit. There were just a few lines that we were able to, we didn't need. I introduced that whole element of a purple thread, which I really like. I think for me that symbolizes, dignity, coming out of it with your dignity, finding an escape. That's one of the suffragette flag colours, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. These are subtle things that no one would really see on the film, but in my head, I know.
No, in your head, and that's the kind of thing I think films, upon watching them more, and there's always different
My
things that
dog.
different people will pick up. And they like to pipe up.
Yeah, I think there's someone
So
at the door.
what has this motivated you to work on next? What are you developing?
Wow, it's actually given me a lot of confidence actually to finally have the sort of next level short film, and so I'm developing a few ideas at the moment. I'm working on an action, sort of a fantasy action film, just in development at the moment with my brother, called Dark Fjord. Um, he lives in Norway, and we're doing some development on that for a proof of concept.
Right.
And I'm working on a coming of age friendship story between two girls who come from either side of the enemy lines post Second World War, which is based on a true story. And yeah, so they're two, and also co-producing proof of concept supernatural horror for a friend of mine. So
Nice. So you're really
mixing.
crossing all of the genres there.
Well, I love cinema, and I love lots of
Yeah.
different types of films. So it's hard to pin down it's like when someone asks me, oh, what's your favorite type of music? And I'm like, God, how long you got?
No, I know. And also for me, it depends what mood I'm in, what I want to watch.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely, but like recently, I've always been one, I'm like, oh, I'm not a big fan of sci-fi. But then there was like a series that's come out recently, Fallout, like based on a game, all sci-fi. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I have to
So-
remind myself as well. I was like, just because you might not fit into a certain genre, within that genre, it's everything.
yeah, exactly.
So many different things. Well, Maria, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been lovely talking to you.
No, this has been a pleasure.